Good afternoon, friends. It's time for more development, and I'm just going to give you a quick view of what I have been up to this morning, which is basically the graphs and making sure they actually work. So as you can see, minutes is looking good, and now the hours are also looking good. So we let it run on with dilation set at 10 for a couple of hours while the football was on, and this is the results we got. At this point, our widgets were full and we stopped producing anything, so everything dropped, which is absolutely understandable. And so I added another storage container and off it went again. So we are actually quite happy with the current state of affairs. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at deconstruction of the buildings. Now, I did start this last night, but I wanted to continue it with you guys. So what I did was carried on with the graphs, and we'll put that to one side as it's pretty much nearly complete, and the stuff that I need to complete I can do off stream. So now we're going to do deconstruction. And what we're going to do is we're going to put together our usual initial setup so that we can go through, we can save it and then go through each building as required. Now already the miner has been done, right? But we need to do the other buildings, which is basically our refiner, smelter, fabricator, research, etc. Okay, and the likes of our storage. And once we get that that code sorted out, we will be able to basically copy that across when we need to for each additional building. Okay, so that is the idea for today. So what we're going to do is set ourselves up as usual, and then we're going to save, which we just did. And it really doesn't matter at this point about production, right? All that actually matters is about deconstruction. So with that in mind, we're going to have a look at the refiner and the code that we are going to run that is going to destroy all our stuff. And this is it here. So what we can do is we're hoping for no errors here when we actually deconstruct a refiner. Okay, so if we click remove, we click that, we do not have the one coming in. We have an error. Okay, so something is pending a kill, and it's an output object. Now, I am of the opinion that and I came to a conclusion last night actually. Now I don't know if I said this on the stream, but rather than get all actors of class, okay, what we really want to do here is get all actors with tag. Okay, now the reason for that and in fact we shall delete this, and what we shall do is get all actors. Hey Dante, how are you, mate? Get all actors of class with tag. Okay. Now, hi Kofi, how are you this afternoon? So the idea behind this, okay, is that we only bring back the output objects, okay, which is the barrels, etc., on a conveyor belt. We only bring back the ones related to that conveyor belt, okay? I'm good, mate. All's well with the world, I suppose. So, what we are actually going to have to do here is find, when we create an actor or an output object, that we give it a tag with the name of our conveyor. Okay, and then what we can do is we can say display name, and we can pass it into the tag. Okay, so this will cut it down to only bring back the output objects that this is linked to. Okay, so although this works, it's not as efficient as doing it this way, right? Because once you've got a lot of buildings and a lot of output, then I might have to be looping through thousands of these objects, right? But if I'm only returning the objects with the class and a specific tag, then obviously this is going to be far more efficient. So that is the thoughts behind that. Now, here is the interesting thing. We need to get our output object. Okay? And when we set this, it would appear that on begin play, what we could do here is on begin play, we get the spline, and we do that, which is cool. Right, but we actually want to do something else first. Well, I hope you recover soon, Dante, and you can get back on it. So what we can do is get a reference to self. Right? And set tag. Okay, and we make array. And we get the my spline. And we say get display name, and we pass it into here. Okay, so this is now going to add a tag to our object to each of our output items and set it to a specific tag, and that tag is the spline that it is associated to. Now I don't know why it did that, but anyway, okay, whatever. And apparently things are going a bit weird. Right. So now that we've set that tag, we can actually do this with the miner. Well, we can carry on with the refiner first, okay? Let's carry on with the refiner and get the sort of final effect that we want here. So we're going to do this just the same. Okay, maybe we're not. That's fine. I can put that in there. We can delete that. We can pull this in. Grab that. Grab that. And that should be us. Okay. So we can basically do exactly the same thing here. Right? And we can duplicate that we can drag this into here. Then this can go in there. Now, as I said, we won't actually see, any difference, right? But there will be a difference, okay? Now, what I actually want to see here, I'm going to stick in a breakpoint, okay? Which we shall do in a second. I want to see if it actually goes in here. So, we click that, except we don't. We click remove, then click on that. Now, in theory, we get the spliner. Okay. And we destroy all the stuff in there. And this is all wrong. So this is the part that we need to work on. Okay, so we can resume that, and that works fine. Okay, now it does put stuff back on this. And what we need to do next is not this. Okay. So we need to delete this, and this actually becomes conveyor in. And that goes to there. Now, if the conveyor in is not valid, then we just destroy our refiner. Okay, so that's all good. So we can now test this out. The thing about it is that what's happening here, right? Okay, let me join this up again just to let you see and I'll explain what's going on and what I am attempting to achieve. Okay, because you guys may be looking at this and don't understand why there's all these loops and stuff, but there is good reason for it. Okay, so the reason is because when I delete this, I need to delete all the objects of this spline, okay? That's the first thing we need to do before I can get rid of the spline. Okay? So in actual fact, we do it on the out first. So we need to remove all the objects on this spline. Then we delete the spline. Then we delete all the objects on this spline. Then we delete this spline. And then we delete the refinery. Okay? So basically that is what is going on here. So let me explain it. This is deleting the objects coming out that are on this spline. Then we remove the reference on this object for the input spline, and in theory we're going to have to do a similar one for this. Okay, but we'll check out to see what's going on with that minor once we delete it, okay, to see if there's any errors or anything going on that's causing us a problem. Right, so you can see that we've deleted everything that is connected to our refiner, but what we need to see is if we have a spline. Okay, so what I'll do in the meantime, just for a laugh, is I shall connect, I'll make a storage container down here, and then what we'll do is connect it and then we shall see if there's actually any issues with our miner getting connected back up, because this would be a logical thing that you would do. And there it goes. Okay. Then we can click on this. And as you can see, this isn't working correctly. So there is obviously an issue here. Okay, and obviously that is an issue. I didn't mean to do that. So let's take a look at this thing here. So we already have a remove output spline. Okay. And this is going to be on the spliner, there's no doubt about it. So we're going to have to take a look at the spliner here. Okay. And we're going to have to look at the event graph. And interesting. Interesting indeed. Right. So let's have a look for a minute at our refiner. So we have conveyor out, end actor. So I can only assume that this is in here. Okay. And we're doing a remove input spline ref. On the child actors. Okay, so interesting. Right, is that stop processing, etc.? Now that's not going to have, I don't think that's going to have it. I think this one will have it. There, it's there. Right. So each of these is basically going to have to be reset. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is, like, in each of our buildings, like for example the miner, right, we're going to have event remove output spline ref, and that is going to be set to nothing. Okay, and then in our building, we're basically going to do the same as this, except event remove output spline ref. We're going to do the same thing here, except we're going to interface call the remove output spline ref. Okay. And then in our refinery, we are going to say conveyor in then we're going to say actor and it's going to be supply actor so in the case of the first refiner, this is going to be the miner, right? So this is going to be remove output spline ref. Okay, and this is going to go to here, and this is going to go to here. And that should be us. And all we really need to do now is, because everything else is the same, we basically copy this code. Now it does have to be different because there are buildings that don't have, for example, the miner doesn't have an input. The fabricator has multiple inputs. A splitter will be similar, a combiner will be similar, so we need different sets of code for each one for this. But what we want to see hopefully now is if we continue, right, and the first thing we can do is basically test it by adding a container down here, right? But if we do our conveyor belts and join them up to here, and then we join them up to here, and we do a bit of that, right, we can find out what is working and what's not, right? We want at least something on this particular conveyor belt. And I have no idea why this is not working. I've got every reason to know why this isn't working. This is copper. Right, okay. So what we can do is we can just remove this. And we resume. Okay. And the next thing we could actually do is stop it. And we have a lot of errors. We are saying something about it's pending a kill. Right. So the conveyor out is doing all that stuff. Now the interesting thing in here is we actually don't need to do this anymore. All we actually need to do is this part here. Okay. Then on completion, we do that. So what we want to actually see here we basically want to see how many items this actually has. Right? This is going to be the interesting signifier of if this is actually working properly or not. Now we know, right, let's not draw the, input one. Let's just sort out what's going on. Okay, so if we click on remove, we click on here, we have the conveyor in. Now actually what we're going to do is we're going to stop this for now. Right, now I am of the opinion that there's something really weird going on here. Right, again we can delete this, we don't need it because we are basically getting the very spline that we require to delete this stuff. And that should go in there. And that can even up with that. Now, from what we're looking at here, I think there's something going on, and it's trying to delete the wrong output object. Right? Now, don't ask me why at this particular point, but I do believe that's the case. Right? So, while we wait for a couple of things to get on the track, we shall check it out. Get a sip of my orange juice and let's remove this. Now, that's kind of what I expected. Right, I'm going to stop that. I'm going to press play again. I'm going to continue again. And I didn't add the breakpoint. Okay. Okay, that was a bit of a mistake there, but we'll speed that up. So we've got about 10, okay? We're going to have to step over that. And there you go, got about 10, which is correct. Now the interesting part here is what this actually is and what is the tags on it. Now I was kind of expecting an error there. Now there's nothing to say we're not going to get an error when we stop. We didn't, so that actually seems to work. So that's good. Right. So again, our next thing should be that when we delete that, we root it. Okay. So we delete this. We resume. Okay. Then we spin this around. We select this again. And we've got a bit of a thunderstorm been going on the last hour or so. So it's kind of raining, then or belting it down, and then stopping, then belting it down. Now, the really strange thing now is that this is not adding to our storage. Okay. And I have no idea why. Okay, so let's test something else. what we shall basically do is we shall add a storage unit immediately, put it in there, and we shall join it up directly from our game. So what we're going to do is do this, draw that out, and then we shall find out if this actually adds or not. And that is the weirdest thing ever. Okay, okay. Let me just try something. Is it the save game that's mucking this up? Is that what's doing this? We're going to try this in a minute, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing as we did before, except I'm going to do it without saving, right? And we shall see what happens. And this is where testing becomes really, really fun. Right, so we shall join up our thing here. Okay, so we have our stuff basically. Then we shall remove this, resume, resume. That all looks great. Then do this. And put that in there. Now let's see if this actually works or not. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll try a new game. And this is us trying it. That's good actually, because that was bauxite, so that was a completely different thing. So we can rule out the fact that it's anything to do with products, right? So we can possibly rule out it's anything to do with a save game. right? Because it's doing it on a new game and it's doing it on a save game. So we're going to presume at this point it's nothing to do with the save game, it's something to do with when we remove the and we can actually use the time dilation now to actually get us. And what on earth is going on? I've got no idea what's going on. There's something really weird happened. I'm getting to the, oops, the daisy. We are going to have to restart. I think we're going to have to restart Unreal Engine, because this does not make any sense. I was running this earlier on and it was saving, like, the storage was going up to 10,000 and everything was working absolutely fine. Now there's no reason that this shouldn't be working normally without any saves, because it's not like I'm running any extra code. I'm not actually doing this until I delete a building, or until I deconstruct a building, right? So I'm kind of flummoxed. So I tell you what, we're going to reset this, right? Then we're going to reopen it. But this is absolutely bizarre. No, we've got a tropical storm going on. So basically it's the runoff from the water for the roof and stuff. So when it rains here, it tends to rain really, really hard. So you get a lot of water very quickly. But it only lasts for 5-10 minutes. So anyway, I am going to take the opportunity to go and grab a cigarette. I shall be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like, subscribe, check the description, blah blah blah, all that stuff, and I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay guys, I am back and with inspiration. In fact, as what happens a lot of the time when I go out for a cigarette, I sit back from the problem, take a step back, think of something, and I have an idea. It might not be the right idea, but we're going to have a look anyway. And I actually think that the output object already had a tag. And we are basically overwriting that tag in the first instance, right? And I was right. It's already got a tag. Product. And that is why it screwed up. Okay? So there you go. My cigarette saved the day. Okay? So, we actually need to think of a way to do this. Now, what I'm thinking of is if we say self get tags, right? Now let's take a look. We could actually add this tag, right? And we're not going to make an array, okay? But what we're going to do is get a copy of this number 1 and in fact we're not going to do that at all. We're going to set array element, right, and it's going to be index 1 and it's going to be that okay. And that is the answer to our problem. Okay, but it's not quite. Or it's not quite yet. Let's see. Because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go into a refiner first of all, and that might be okay, actually. That might be okay. We're going to have to stop that and get that out of the way a bit. And what we can do is continue. But that was a very interesting problem there. So what we can do again is go with our container down here, then we can build our refinery up here, and indeed our smelter up here. Then we can spin this around. We can join up this. Then we can join up this. And we can start that up a bit. Then we can make it go a bit faster, all in all. And you can see we've now got product on both. Okay, so now what we can do is we can remove this, and that's all good. And then hopefully we can go here. Then we can do that. And there we go. Backup run. Okay, so a weird issue, but a weird issue that we have solved. Okay. And now what we can do, knowing what we've done, is we can actually grab this, copy it, go to our smelter and paste it into there. So we can go that, and we can go to our smelter, and in our destroy all, we delete this, and we paste this. And we'll do the same as what we did before. We'll put this at the very bottom. I'm still 100% thinking that we should have these split up. We should have interface calls split up from everything else. Right? And that all is sorted out. Now we're going to do the Fabricator next, but it's going to be different. The interesting thing is the storage container will actually be the same, but we have to do something about the product in the actual storage container. Right? I mean, we could just destroy it and you just lose it, but that wouldn't be a very good way of doing it. So we need to think of a way of doing that. Okay. So the first thing we'll do here is we'll test the smelter. And the great thing is that we're not getting any errors now, which is obviously good. Which means that we can assume that the issue was not to do with the save game, or that's what we're going to assume anyway. So we can do that. Then we can do our Fabricator. Now our Fabricator is going to be the same, except we're going to have to delete the two inputs. And to be honest, at this point, I don't even know if the two inputs actually work. On the research one, we're just going to have to do the input one, because obviously it doesn't have an output, but so we can change that to widgets, we can change that to iron sheet, then we can start joining these up. Right, so we can join it. In fact, what we'll do is at this point is we'll save it so that we can play about with this. Okay. And we can do that. Okay. Then what we need to do we can actually start speeding it up a bit. So we can remove this. Perfect. So let's stop that. No errors, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Okay. We should have yeah, okay, whatever. Right, what we'll do is we'll have to run that test again, right? But what we'll do is we'll remove the smelter and then we'll add it back in, connect everything back up as it was, and everything should run again, right? So close that, click on that widget, close that. Right, so we can basically do that, join that up, do that, join this one up. So we've done that, everything's joined up. We can do the old that, then we can speed it up, slow it down. So smelter's going along there. What we do is we remove our smelter, we do another smelter, we get ready to join it up again. Right, join it up, join it back up. This is coming along nicely. We'll hit the speed up button, and I believe we need to set this to the correct thing. And there we go. Okay. Perfecto. And let's check. We have widgets. That's great. So that's all working nicely. I'm happy with that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our storage, and we're going to do the same as we did before. We're going to move this to the bottom. Okay, then we're going to delete this. Then we're going to paste. And we're going to save that. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'll tell you what we'll do is we shall make this a bit more compact. Save that, and we'll do the same here. Save that. Go to a refiner. Save that. So that's excellent. Definitely, these are all interface calls, right? So what I'm thinking is either A, put them onto a new event graph, or B, put a comment round about them, make them some like weird purple color or something, right? Okay, that, and then like put interface calls, have something like that, you know. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know whether it's definitely a better idea than to not know what section is the interface calls, what section is other things. Right, that's an interface call as well. So that should be in the interface calls, right? But let's not be too hasty here. Let's see what else is up here. Right, so it looks like we'll not got anything else, but it would be advantageous to keep these kind of apart, the interface calls and everything else. That's what I'm thinking here. And if that's the case, then yeah. So we're probably going to have more stuff, right? But well, these aren't really interface calls. These are interface events. Is a more accurate description of them. Right. So I think that this is a sort of better way of doing this. As I said, they're still basically on the event graph, right? The standard event graph, but at least they're separated or identified in some way or a different way from the rest of the stuff. Now, there was one more thing that I wanted to do, but I can't remember exactly what it was. Right, now let me think about it. What it was that I wanted to do. Or, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's do the other. Let's do the research station. Right. So we have got the event. It is the only interface call at the moment. Right. And we basically quite simply remove all remove this and just do this. Right? That's all we do. And that should be us for research. So you can see when this is very modular, it's really easy to just take the parts that you want and transfer them across basically to another blueprint. Right, now we've got two interface calls here, and I believe this transfer item is going to be in all of them basically. Right, we've got this stuff isn't done, so just remove it. Got begin play. We don't process per se. We do something similar, but it isn't a process. Okay, so now we can basically grab these and drag them up just to tidy this up a bit. And that's it for the research. So we can save that. Right. So that's another part done. So that should be it. Now the only one that's different is the Fabricator, right? But the Fabricator is going to be fine. It's going to be fairly similar. It's not going to be exactly the same. And this is it here. Right, we can delete that. And we'll drag this down into all our interface stuff. Then we shall paste. And we're going to add another sequence, right? And we're going to move, this is the interface out, right? So that's fine. But now what we're going to do is, once we've tidied that up, now this doesn't look straight to me. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that. That's going to go exactly there, except we're going to use this one. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong way. Goofed out. Interesting. Don't know why that's there. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to drag that in there. And that should go in to here. Okay. Then what we can do is just drag this out just a little bit so that we get the kind of separation between these. That's fine. Save that. Okay. And that should be our Fabricator done. So the only one we need to do now is the Metalworks, which isn't complete yet. Right, but we can still do it. We can delete that. Now, I know for a fact that the Metalworks has got a couple of things missing. Right? But we can sort out that later. We can go back to our Fabricator and grab these two. So we copy these. In fact, we'll copy these. We'll add the sequence back in manually because we only need two basically. So sequence, we do that, we do that. We can delete that. We can do that. Alright, we can tidy all of these up later, but basically can make that a bit tidier. It's fine though. So we'll save that. And that is all our buildings done. we're not going to do the warehouse because I don't think the warehouse is actually going to stand the test of time. Not 100% sure about that, but yeah. Everything else now we have done. We can delete that. Okay, so that's not interface calls, but this is, and I'm guessing this is going to be the transfer item again. Yep, it certainly is. It's just that if we have all of these in the same positions, then we'll get to the fact where we know that all of the interface calls are at the bottom, right? So we can basically go like that again, and we can say interface, and if you remember correctly, they're not really interface calls, they are interface. What's going on? Right. Interface calls. We're going to make it purple. Okay, that. And then that's going to be 50. Then we can drag it up a bit. And that, as I said, keeps things together. We'll delete that, tidy it up. Can then drag this up a bit. As I said, I really need to start doing some actual housekeeping of the code, get some comments in and stuff like that. And this is a decent start. Not much of a start, but a decent start. Okay. This looks like a bit of a mess. Okay. And that's not doing anything. Right, I think what we're going to do, right, we'll take a first look at this, okay? We can do it on the continue. Now, it should be, right, that all of our buildings start with no recipe, right? So this should be empty. Right, so I'm going to need like a default nothing recipe. Okay, see how this is set, but it's not really set. Okay, that's the problem. This is set, but it's not really set. Okay, now this is set because of a save, but when we first start the game, these should not really be set. Right? But for them not to be set, right, we're going to have to look at, like, for example, the refiner. Okay? Now, what does it do when it starts, right? So it's set up supply for recipe. Right, well, how can it do that if it doesn't know what the recipe is yet? right? Now this might be something to do with this easy save thing, right? But we should really have a default setting, right? With no recipe, so that there is no confusion when you start up the game and it says it's that recipe, but it's actually not set. Right? So it appears to me that when we come in here, the current recipe is set, right? But it shouldn't be. So I think we're going to have a look at that. But I think that's going to be for tonight, because again, we've got a quiet afternoon, and Thursday's normally a quiet afternoon, to be honest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out the issue here, and then tonight we're going to solve the problem. Okay? It's just a matter of, at the moment, I'm trying to solve as many little issues that were kind of niggling me and weren't really the way I wanted it to work. So having the blank recipe makes sense, right? There should be no recipe when you actually start it. Now let's have a little look at this actually. We're not going to end the stream just yet. What we're going to do is we're going to build a refiner, right? We're going to continue the game. Well, it doesn't actually matter if we continue or not, to be fair, right? So we're not going to worry about that refiner. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to build another refiner, right? And we're going to find out what it actually does. Okay? So we're going to check the parent later. Okay, but I think the problem is in here. Right, so we're coming in here, and we have already got a current recipe. Now, where is that coming from? Well, I can only assume it's coming from the parent, right? So let's have a look at that again. We'll resume that, right? And we'll get a bit of space here. Let's get a bit of space. Right, so we do that. Right? And I'm just wondering here. Do we have right, so we have a pause input and pause. Right, so I am not convinced yet. So we're getting the controller, we're setting the building name. Is it saved by AMS? I'm going to guess no. Right? Then we're going to get table row names, and that's going to be here. And that gets all our temp recipes. And then we set, yeah, we're setting, look, we're setting it here. We're setting it exactly here. So the interesting concoction here would actually be to do that. Right? We're not going to set the recipe. And let's see what it actually shows us. Right? So we can continue again here. We can resume. And I don't think, well, let's have a look. Right. We're gonna say that's because it's already built, okay? But if we add this one and resume it, right, we're waiting to become inactive, and we get none. That's kind of what we want. Right, and that automatically fills it in. That's beautiful. Right, but can we build another one? Let's see what we need to actually change. We can resume that. And we'll have a look at what we have to change to get this to look good. We could do this as a widget switcher, by the way. Right, see how it's got current recipe? And it's got none. Well, all we need to do here is basically remove this part here, which I believe is a widget, right? So we can just basically swap out for another widget if this has no recipe currently. And that worked for us. Right. So if you've enjoyed the stream, hit the subscribe and like buttons. And if you're interested in more, then check out the description for my Discord, also my Patreon, where you can support the channel and get your name in the credits, and my previous game on Steam, which also will support the channel if it sells. So everybody have a good evening or afternoon, and I'll see you at 8 PM Central. Bye bye for now.